They were supposed to be unstoppable. The couple the world watched with awe, envy, and sometimes disbelief. Prince Harry, the Golden Prince with a rebellious streak, and Meghan Markle, the American actress whose charm and ambition had captured hearts across continents. They were supposed to rewrite the rules of royalty, to show the world that love, independence, and modernity could coexist with centuries of tradition. But paradise, as it often does, came with hidden cracks. And in Montecito, a place known for its glitz, serenity, and Hollywood facades, those cracks didn't just widen, they exploded. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. What if I told you that the very woman who left the monarchy for freedom might now be turning on the man who promised to protect her at all costs? That the dream life in Montecito, the mansion with sprawling gardens, panoramic views, and every luxury imaginable, had become a pressure cooker of tension, mistrust, and alleged attacks? You might think this is another celebrity scandal, another headline to scroll past. But the layers here are deeper, more personal, and more shocking than most are willing to admit. Montecito, California, is supposed to be a refuge for the wealthy and famous, a sanctuary from the prying eyes of tabloids and paparazzi. The hills roll gently into the Pacific Ocean, the sun sets like a painting across manicured gardens, and the streets are patrolled by discreet security. But even paradise has a breaking point. For Meghan and Harry, that point was creeping closer with every passing month. Tensions that might have seemed manageable from the outside were quietly intensifying inside the walls of their Montecito mansion. Every argument over security, every disagreement about media exposure, every subtle clash between their worlds, Hollywood and royalty, added invisible pressure. And pressure, as we know, can turn love into conflict in the blink of an eye. Think about it. Meghan left one world entirely. She left the grandeur and suffocating expectations of the palace, the scrutiny of family and tradition, in exchange for freedom in the Californian sun. But freedom is rarely free. The moment she stepped into Montecito, she didn't just inherit a mansion. She inherited expectations, media attention, and a different kind of isolation. Hollywood demands perfection, notoriety, and charisma. Royalty demands loyalty, discretion, and tradition. Trying to balance both? Impossible. And the friction between those two worlds didn't just spark disagreements. It created a slow-burning feud that no one outside those walls could fully grasp. And then there's the money. We often underestimate how wealth can complicate relationships, especially when combined with fame and public pressure. The Montecito mansion, with its multi-million-dollar price tag, was more than a home. It was a statement. A fortress, some would say, designed to shield them from the world. But luxury, like power, can be both protective and corrosive. Allegedly, disagreements over spending, finances, and lifestyle began to strain the couple's relationship. Friends whispered about arguments over security costs, extravagant renovations, and who would foot the bill for various Hollywood outings. Financial disputes, when layered on top of fame and media scrutiny, are rarely just about money. They become symbolic battles over control, autonomy, and ego. And what about trust? In relationships, especially ones under constant public scrutiny, trust is fragile. Harry and Meghan were not just partners, they were a public phenomenon. Every misstep was magnified, every choice dissected by millions around the world. But even beyond the cameras, trust was reportedly fraying. Friends who had once been allies began whispering secrets. Advisors, caught between loyalty and self-preservation, made choices that may have fueled tensions further. And when whispers become louder, when private frustrations leak into the public eye, what started as small cracks can turn into chasms. The allegations that Meghan may have attacked Harry, emotionally or otherwise, didn't happen in a vacuum. They happened against this backdrop of mistrust, media pressure, and a sense that paradise was slipping away. The alleged eviction from Montecito was another layer entirely. Imagine being in a home you thought would be your safe haven, only to face the possibility of losing it. Even rumors of eviction can be destabilizing, stirring anger, fear, and desperation. And when a mansion is not just a home but a symbol of your independence, security, and identity, the emotional stakes are even higher. According to sources, tensions reached a breaking point. Arguments turned sharper, words were said in heat and frustration, and the private battles spilled over into dynamics that would ultimately shock both the public and insiders alike. It's easy to think of Meghan and Harry as two people, but in reality, they are two stories intertwined, two identities clashing under the relentless weight of fame. Meghan's ambition, her desire for autonomy, and her Hollywood connections sometimes collided with Harry's own battles. His sense of duty, his loyalty to family, and his quest to protect his wife from scrutiny. Conflict was almost inevitable, and while outsiders can speculate, the reality inside Montecito was likely far more complex, emotional, and raw than anyone could predict. And here's where it gets even more intriguing: the alleged attack. What does it mean when someone you love, someone you trusted to be your partner against the world, suddenly becomes the source of fear or confrontation? Allegedly, Meghan's frustrations reached a point where they spilled over into conflict with Harry in ways that stunned everyone who thought they knew the couple. Emotional intensity, high stakes, and the pressures of their intertwined worlds created a perfect storm. And this wasn't just a private spat. It reportedly had implications for their public image, their social circle, and their ongoing media strategies. Now, pause for a moment. Imagine living in constant scrutiny, where every word, every glance, every social media post is examined, critiqued, and weaponized. Add in the tension of financial disputes, personal ambition, and the weight of leaving a monarchy that still watches you closely. Then layer on isolation, because Montecito, for all its beauty, is also a bubble that can amplify anxieties, resentments, and miscommunications. That is the environment where the alleged attack reportedly occurred. A cauldron of pressure that, according to insiders, made confrontation almost inevitable. So why does this matter now? Because the aftermath of Montecito isn't over. What happened behind those walls has ripple effects that extend across continents, into media narratives, into public perception, and into personal relationships that will shape the future of both Meghan and Harry. Every revelation, every leaked story, every detail we uncover adds another layer to a saga that is still unfolding. And for viewers like you, understanding these dynamics isn't just gossip. It's an insight into how power, fame, ambition, and human emotion collide in the lives of people the world thought it knew. But perhaps the most compelling question of all is this: what comes next? When a private home becomes the setting for public drama, when love and trust are tested under the harshest lights imaginable, when a couple known for rewriting rules finds themselves trapped by those very rules. How do you move forward? According to sources, the answer is anything but simple, and the consequences of these Montecito events are still playing out in ways that could shock even the most ardent royal watchers. They thought it would be paradise. A sprawling estate in Montecito, California, nestled between the ocean and the hills, a sanctuary where they could escape the relentless glare of the media, the relentless pressure of royal expectations, and the relentless scrutiny of social media. But paradise, as the story of Meghan and Harry in Montecito would reveal, can be dangerously deceptive. What looked like a dream home from the outside was, from the inside, a pressure cooker waiting to explode. Imagine the first time they walked into the mansion. The gates swung open, security discreetly in place, a driveway lined with immaculately maintained trees. The sun was shining just enough to make the ocean glimmer in the distance. Every detail had been carefully curated. Luxurious furnishings, art pieces strategically placed, gardens manicured with precision. It was the kind of home that whispers wealth, taste, and power. A home that promises safety. And yet, even on that first day, some sources say, the couple sensed something subtly off. The house was beautiful, but its scale, its isolation, and its opulence came with hidden challenges. There was a sense, almost imperceptible, that this paradise might not stay idyllic for long. From the outside, Montecito represents perfection. It's where Hollywood stars hide in plain sight. Celebrities stroll down quiet streets, boutique shops cater to millionaires, and the ocean breeze carries the scent of privacy and exclusivity. But that very isolation, as insiders would later reveal, can magnify personal tensions. Being removed from familiar support networks, surrounded only by staff, security, and the occasional friend, creates a bubble. And inside a bubble, emotions that might have been manageable elsewhere can become amplified, distorted, and dangerous. For Meghan and Harry, this wasn't just about a home. It was about freedom. Freedom from the palace, from the relentless protocols, from the judgments of family, and from the suffocating expectations of being a prince and a duchess. They wanted a place where they could write their own rules, where the world couldn't intrude at every turn. And yet, as anyone who has ever moved into a dream house knows, freedom often comes with unexpected responsibilities. Security systems need oversight. Staff require management. Neighbors, even in elite enclaves, notice patterns, movements, and behaviors. A home that promises sanctuary can also become a gilded cage, trapping you in ways you never anticipated. It didn't take long for cracks to appear. Sources suggest that small tensions, arguments about security, disagreements over privacy measures, even subtle disputes over interior design choices, started to accumulate. What seemed trivial at first became symbolic. A disagreement about where to place a sofa might feel petty to outsiders, but in an environment charged with stress, fame, and ambition, every decision carries emotional weight. Add to that the presence of paparazzi helicopters hovering in the distance, the occasional drone overhead, and the constant hum of public attention, even in a private neighborhood, and you begin to understand how a dream mansion can start to feel like a pressure cooker. Then there were the friends and advisors. Every household has them, the trusted circle meant to protect, advise, and support. But in high-profile lives, friends often become intermediaries. Advisors walk a tightrope of loyalty and self-interest, and secrets have a way of leaking. According to insiders, disagreements between Meghan and Harry were often compounded by external voices, each with their own agenda. The very people meant to provide support sometimes unintentionally fan the flames. One comment, one piece of advice, one whispered observation could escalate minor disagreements into full-blown arguments. Security, too, became a point of tension. Harry, aware of threats that most people cannot imagine, insisted on comprehensive measures. Meghan, wanting a balance between privacy and normalcy, sometimes pushed back. The clash between caution and comfort, between protection and freedom, created a subtle but persistent tension. In a typical household, such disagreements might be trivial, but when millions are watching, when every move can become a news headline, the stakes are magnified. Every security detail, every gate placement, every staff briefing became more than just logistics. It became a symbol of control, autonomy, and power dynamics within their relationship. And then there's the question of identity. Montecito represented a fresh start, yes, but it also posed challenges to who they were as individuals and as a couple. Meghan was no longer just an actress. She was a former royal, a public figure, and, according to some reports, a woman with ambitions that stretched beyond California's borders. Harry was no longer just a prince. He was a husband, a father, and a man navigating life outside the palace with the weight of legacy on his shoulders. In a house built for perfection, the pressure to perform, to present a flawless image, became inescapable. Every choice carried implications. Not just for their personal comfort, but for their public image, their brand, and their narrative. Sources suggest that it wasn't long before small arguments escalated into confrontations of real emotional weight. What began as disagreements over logistics, security, staff, finances, grew into clashes over expectations, ambition, and unmet needs. Friends reportedly observed an increasing pattern of tension, moments where words were exchanged sharply and emotions ran high. The mansion, in all its beauty, was no longer just a home. It had become a stage for conflict, a private battlefield where love and tension collided daily. Imagine waking up every day knowing that the world expects perfection, that your every word and gesture could be scrutinized, and that the very home meant to provide safety is now a pressure cooker for conflict. It's a scenario that sounds almost cinematic, but for Meghan and Harry, according to insiders, it was reality. Each corridor, each room, each private corner of the estate held stories of frustration, disagreements, and emotional strain that no outsider could fully perceive. The dream of Montecito was becoming a living nightmare. And yet, Amidst all this tension, there were moments of hope. Family dinners, quiet walks through the gardens, and shared laughter over small joys. These moments, however fleeting, served as reminders of why they had chosen Montecito in the first place. It was supposed to be a refuge, a place to heal, to reconnect, to define their life on their own terms. But paradise, as the story would soon reveal, has its limits. Even the most beautiful home can become a crucible for the most personal battles.